All right, welcome to Zagging 101. And guys, in case you guys didn't know, I thought I'd let you guys know why we exist. And I think as we talk about all the time, the why is really important. And our goal simply is to help you, our health and PE professionals, expand your influence, your advocacy, and your impact using social media tools. And how do we do that? We spend time teaching you tips, tricks, and hacks. Today, we're going to have 7 tips on how to find your content niche. I'll be your host. My name is Guy Danhoff. And as you look on the left-hand side, you can see that I work with MOSHAPE, Missouri Healthy Schools, as well as Shape America, all in the name of digital media and social media and promotions. I've also been blessed to actually last year write a co-author a textbook I wrote specifically on digital marketing, and health fitness management has a whole chapter just dedicated to the types of content that we'll be reviewing today. And I'm also an assistant professor at Missouri Baptist University within health and sports sciences, and I teach more of the business side of the house, your sport marketing, your fitness management, and of course sport and social media, those types of courses. Outside of just our profession, I put up a couple new logos this week. I've also been involved with the NHL last November. They put on a 4-day U.S. Hockey Sled Classic. And then this past February, I was in Indiana. I was very blessed to be given the opportunity with me and a few of my sport management students as we worked the NFL Combine event on a NFL Career Day. And I got a chance to live stream Adam Schefter. So that was kind of a real big thing to work with the NFL's top insider. And today, meet our panel. This is going to be kind of cool. On the left, we're going to be joined by Danny Garcia as he represents the PE spot. He comes all the way from Orange County, California. We have Drew Burris from the Show Me State right here in Missouri. As he has been doing the Project Phys Ed for quite some time. And then last but not least, we're going to go all the way coast to coast to the Bronx as we introduce Jim Hamble. And we're really excited to have this group of panelists because they're going to give us some really enlightening insights as to their journey in terms of their content and their content creation. So basically, guys, here's where we start. Whenever you start thinking about content, you have to ask the question, sorry, that was Lauren trying to get in. I just told her she had to log in. So when you start thinking about content and you start thinking about who your audience is, one of the great mistakes that organizations make, I don't care if it's here in the health and PE world, or if it's in just any kind of business, but to stand out on a line today, if you try to reach everybody, the truth of the matter is you're going to end up reaching nobody. And that's coming from Sean Cannell. And Sean happens to be the one of the world's premier authorities on YouTube, as he's got over 1 million subscribers to his YouTube channel. So a big part of today is, I said this last week, if you're new, we have to stop the random acts of content. You know, you've heard a lot of things over the past month for those that have been on all 4 weeks prior, but today's we're getting into the meat, and the meat is this: content is king. So we can talk about attention grabbing, we can talk about the platforms, you know, we can talk about the strategy, but the reality is that we have got to stop these random acts of content. And I'm going to show you guys and illustrate through this example. Simply put, you cannot manage what you do not measure. Now, I'm not going to ask you guys to put this in the chat box, but the question I would ask, how many of you guys have ever taken the time to look at your social media analytics? And for example, for us at MOSHAPE, this was the huge pivot for us. This was huge. And as it says nationally, basically only about 30% of organizations actually take time to look at their analytics. So then what are you doing the other 70% of the time? You are guessing. And we are very intentional about how we measure. Now I'm gonna pull up some data. This is an aggregate, if you would, but this is an aggregate of data that I put together to show as an example. And Dennis, this should look very familiar to you because this is the type of data that I shared just a few years ago in one of our BOD meetings. And I kept it really simple for everyone. So what I want you guys to see, it says tweet distribution, but think about this as content. So I did a content analysis. Again, this isn't just MOSHAPE, it's a lot of different things, but looking at the data, if you look, there's only 6 buckets, if you would, of the types of content that actually were shared during that time a few years ago. And you see 3 of them are related to convention updates. And when I say updates, I mean announcements. So if you add the data together, you see 48% here. You add in the 4% here, and then you add in 6. So basically, you're looking at nearly 60% of the data is basically announcements. 60%. And if you look here, only 9% were given to Hall of Fame recipients or award winners, or like we do at MOSHAPE, which I love, is looking at our future professionals, those majors of the year. And this is where we were a few years ago. And as you can see, I'm going to ask the question, and Dennis, I'll let you open up because I want to ask the question, what don't you see here? And in other words, what don't you see but that you would expect to see? I don't see anything about advocacy. I don't see anything that's spoken to the future professionals whatsoever. And most importantly, how many guys have ever spoken at a convention? Okay, probably every hand's going to go up, right? Yeah. So guess what I don't see? I don't see that there was any tweets related to any of the content that was presented. In other words, we spent most of our communication on telling people where to go or when this is, as opposed to what actually happened. And this was a huge pivot for us. I can tell you this at MOSHAPE, because this is when it all changed around. And then we look at tweet by percentage. So then what I did is I took a look at and saw, okay, let's look at the distribution. There's only 3 ways you can do that. You can have a text only on Twitter. You can have text with photos and text with videos. And if you looked at this percentage today, you see that videos is barely just over 10%. If you were to see our ratio that we've done since this past November, you would see that our videos would be in that like 43%, and you would see our text only around that 12%. So we made a huge pivot based on our content, based on the fact of what we weren't saying. And that is why today we're going over how you guys can find your content niche, because this was a huge pivot for us. And so what's the objective of today? It's really simple. How can we help you find your content niche? Again, you can't be all things to everyone, because if you try, you're going to reach no one. So that's the purpose of today. So here's your 7 tips. The very first one is, if you're thinking about, and guys, this could be, you guys could be running your state's Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. You could be doing a video blog. You could be doing a blog. You know, you could be doing episodes like Spaker Spot, like Tasty Tuesday, or even like I'm doing here. The first question you need to ask yourself is, what problem are you solving? That has got to be the starting point. In other words, why, you know, what's your purpose for existence? The second question, though, equally as important, is what are you passionate about? In other words, when you wake up in the morning, what lights a fire in your belly? You know, in other words, your why. And if you need to learn more about why, I would say go check out Terry Drain, who just presented a few days ago at out in California at their state event. And I'll tell you right, she'll tell you everything you need to know about your why. It was fantastic what she presented, but this is really important. In other words, it's this simple. You could be in a situation like maybe EDI. You know, maybe your situation is you have a task force, or maybe you want to, you know, do more with your EDI, and you find though that you're not passionate about it. Therefore, even though it's something that you know it's a problem you can solve, but if you're not passionate about it, or your why isn't deep enough, then that may not be the best for you. Not to say you can't support it, but maybe, you know, you shouldn't be leading in content creation related to it. as opposed to what we do here. You know, what problem are we solving, guys? It's pretty simple. We're helping with social media literacy. We're helping every health and physical educator and administrator all across the United States on help you guys to improve what? Your influence, your advocacy, and your impact. That's why Zagging 101 exists. We're just here just to help. We're here to give you guys perspectives. We're here to give you guys tips and tricks that are going to help you. Now, it takes us to the third tip. This is, I'm going to be honest, the hardest. And Dennis knows this very well because we had board meetings and we were talking about, okay, yeah, we know our why, we know what we need to do. Now, we've got to develop the plan or the strategy. And this was the turning point for us. We had to get everyone together, and Chris was part of that, you know, Chris Staley. I mean, we were part of that team putting together what our goals were going to be. Tom Lowry, executive director. This was a big piece for us. And then we got to define our target audience. Who are we trying to reach with our content? Well, we wanted to start small. Our first priority, honestly, guys, was the state of Missouri. Now, as you guys know, we've got content that streams every single day, Monday through Thursday, that reaches a national audience. But again, we started small, had no idea Spaker Spot, had no idea Tasty Tuesday would explode the way they have. And that's again because of the content, the meat. What we're doing is providing real value. Now we go to number 5. Number five is you have to define what is your value proposition. In other words, what is your promise of your channel or of your blog or of your state's, you know, Twitter handle or of your state's, you know, Facebook page? What promise are you delivering? You know, I can tell you this, our what is really simple. We are providing tips, tricks, and hacks to help you guys become better at social media, getting your message out. When do we do it? It's pretty simple. We do it in real time. You guys have seen us do that as far as MOSHAPE goes. And we're doing that right now in our trainings. We're trying to do the things that are most relevant as we get set for going back to school. Now, that promise doesn't have to be stated, it just needs to be implied. So, number 6, create a content calendar. We're in the process of revamping this right now. We just finished our summer series. And I know Chris, Mary Dreimeyer, myself, and Tom Lowry, we're getting together soon to revamp our content calendar for the fall. We're also doing this on behalf of Missouri Healthy Schools. We just started that process as well. And of course, then the question is, when will you deliver on your promise? And again, that's when we're coming up with all the new times and getting people, again, custom when they can expect to see our content. In some cases, it's okay to say, guys, that you're doing something weekly. In our case, we felt we got better results by having a set schedule time that everyone would know. And the other reason why you want to have a content calendar is, like in our case at MOSHAPE, we have Chris creating content, myself creating content, as well as Mary Dreimeyer. We all have to be on the same page, so we coordinate. So in other words, when Chris last night put out information on Teachers of the Year, that would do absolutely no good if he would have done it at the noon hours on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because we're streaming live content. That content he would have posted would have been diluted. Instead, Chris picked the most advantageous time of which to post the Teachers of the Year information. All right, number 7, my favorite. If you really want to get to help you find your content niche, you've got to create a positioning strategy. In other words, what's your zag? Everyone else is doing the zig, right? Everyone is big masses are going this way. You want to come right underneath, and that's the zag. In other words, what's your point of difference? And these are the 7 tips. Now, I have one bonus tip for people who are already doing this and have been doing it for a while. And this is where we are at MOSHAPE right now. Here's your bonus tip. You also want to create a growth strategy. In other words, what is your plan for predictive growth? And that's where you really want to get in touch with your administration, your board of directors, so that you can help drive the ship on where it needs to go, so that whatever content you're putting out aligns with your mission, your vision, your goals, your values, your objectives. And if it doesn't fit in that, the content probably shouldn't be posted. Because look, would you guys expect on here for me to show you guys how to play guitar? Well, I'd hope not. I got a funny story for you. You know, Chris on a MOSHAPE Minute 2 weeks ago had me on, And he mentioned about my daughter, and my daughter and I do car karaoke. We have a blast. And when I put it on my Facebook page, we get over like 1,200 views. And then not because I have any singing ability, my daughter has all the talent. I just smile and play dad, right? Well, ironically, when I put that same content on Twitter, because I'm so associated with doing this kind of content, or certainly, doing all the special edition MOSHAPE minutes, those kind of things, I will barely get 50 views. I mean, I'm sharing some of my own personal life, and it seems like this audience or audiences that care about what I do professionally don't seem interested. And that's okay. I don't really care. It's just an interesting observation that whenever I post something personal in nature, it doesn't really get a whole lot of action as opposed to my own personal Facebook page. So again, you got to be thinking about also the platform. So here's the biggest thing I learned when I was doing the textbook. This chapter on marketing took me 18 months to write. Through extensive research, I'm going to share with you the single most important zag that I learned of all the research. If you were to ask your states, if you were to ask your board of directors, if you were to even ask your own team on the content you're creating, you can identify what makes you different, right? However, when you do the content analysis or the tweet distribution that I just showed you, that I did from just a few years ago, was it communicated? We may say that we're about, our future professions. We may say we're about advocacy. We may say we're about this. We may say we're about that. But is it reflected in the content that goes out? That's why I'm such a proponent of why you need to use data to drive decisions. Because unless you have that data, how can you align what you're actually saying based on what your mission is? So this was the big takeaway for me that I was shocked to find out. And this was staggering that how many people say they do this, but in fact, when you actually pull up the data, that's why I've said in previous broadcasts, that is why it's so critical to do a needs analysis right up front. Look at your content distribution and then find out what you're actually saying, and that's how you're going to know. So with that being said, what I like to do now is, Anna, I'm bringing you in because Lauren's not on, and we'd like to bring in our panelists now. And Lauren, Lauren, Anna, sorry. So used to having Lauren. I'd really miss her.
That is all right.
With that, why don't you kick us off with our panelists?
Sure. I feel like I should have sunglasses on just to mirror the photo. But anyway, we'll cross over that. I thank all of your panelists for being on today. And we just want to jump right into asking the three of you. And Drew Burris, I will start with you. How did you create your content niche and why did you do that? Why is that driving factor? So what did that look like for you?
I created it just when I first started Twitter. I seen all these other PE teachers making stuff, so I kind of wanted to follow along with that. So they were helping other teachers, and that was the whole basis of my website. Was if I can do what they're doing, I can pass it along and help other teachers in the process.
I love that, being able to help our community and help other teachers and what we love to do. I think that's so important, which is one of the best things about our community, and because that's what we do, it's what we're known for, and it's amazing. Next to Jim, what about you? How did you create your niche? How did you find that and why?
When I joined Twitter, similar to what Drew said, I mean, there's so many wonderful, amazing resources, and I wanted to contribute and give back but I wanted to see what was underrepresented. Like for me, I have a big passion and a big background in bowling. So when I saw something like that, and that may not be well known, so I figured that would be something that I could talk about that was unique. And a lot of content I made, like when I made my podcast, I wanted to focus on something that would be quick and easy. It's called Light Up Sneakers because it's supposed to be at the lighter side of education. I also, just highlighting I have my background. I also have a master's in childhood and special education, so also kind of highlighting that as well. And being the SHAPE TA, Physical Activity Council Chair, that also takes on a unique representation because I'm tweeting things not only just for myself, but a lot of things, the content is also for representing SHAPE as well. So that's why, and kind of the background and the reason why.
That's so awesome. You had a specific niche, you had a specific area right from the get-go, which allowed you to explore that and then kind of address that in a really passionate way, which is awesome. And you have something coming up soon, don't you?
I do, yes. Actually, a colleague and I in New York City who kind of, and that's probably a topic on everybody's minds about what's going to happen in the upcoming, and some of us know, some of us don't know. So basically, we just put together a round table just to discuss that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. And to Danny, let's wrap up. What about you? How did you create your niche and why did you do that?
So I am fairly new to the social media game, I guess you could call it. I created my Twitter as an opportunity to collaborate, when we started distance learning and there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of people trying to figure out what to do next. I kind of took it upon myself to start something where I create videos and lessons for my students. So that's how it kind of started off. And then it became like a do-it-yourself type PE activities where I use household items because I knew that some of our students wouldn't have the opportunities to have Frisbees or cones and whatnot. So it became a do-it-yourself PE activity type of thing. And that kind of drove me, is just watching my students become successful, regardless of if they had any equipment, they could create equipment. And again, just being able to support and help out all of the other educators out there who that may have been their first year, being able to help them or guide them and, look at what you could create with just a spoon and a plate or whatnot. So that kind of was my why. And I, again, just created because I wanted to give my students an opportunity to be physically active while still at home.
Awesome. That's wonderful. And I love that you saw what was relevant right now, that there was a need for it, having household items, knowing that a lot of things are virtual, even moving into the fall, there's going to be that need for that content out there, moving into the direction where we are. And that's going to prove to be really valuable for all of us and for yourself in the upcoming months. So thank you.
So with that, guys, I'm just going to briefly just talk about what we've done at MOSHAPE, because I showed you guys where we were. It's kind of hard to believe that actually was our world. That's how we communicated. And all I can say, through amazing leadership from Sandy Moore to Dennis, to Tom Lowry and some others, we really put our heads together, worked on a strategy, and that was never more proved to be invaluable than when COVID hit. Because that's when we made our pivot with Talk Your Walk. And that event really spurred on a chain of reaction across the country and even to some of the other countries, 3 other countries, when we launched that on spreading kindness and patience. And today I can tell you, moving forward, and Dennis said this yesterday in one of his presidential kind of addresses or updates, guys, we are so concerned about our profession that we are trying everything we can do to meet the needs of our state any way we can help nationally. And that's a priority for us. We have made that shift. We have made that pivot. So if you look at our data today, guys, yes, we do some things about announcing, but a lot of what we do is we're keeping people informed. We're giving people professional development. We're, giving people solutions. We're creating content and shows. It's pretty amazing what's happened just in our last 4 months. So that's kind of our story in MOSHAPE, how we really did a pretty transformational pivot. I'm just going to say right now, I have to thank our leadership, because they were the ones that, gave us the go ahead and said, yeah, this is what we need to do, and we've got, and then I'll just say this, we do have an amazing team. When you look at our Health Moves Mind team, SEAL Team 6, and all the board of directors that we have, we are all truly in this together. And so that's kind of our MOSHAPE story. And with that, Danny, I'm going to start with you because you're kind of the newbie to this. Kind of briefly, tell us your story. And kind of regarding the PE spot and the kind of things that you guys do.
So my story kind of starts when I was young. I was always known by my parents. My mom was a single mom, so we really didn't have the finances to go and buy the Nerf guns and stuff, the Nerf little footballs. So I kind of would get pieces of paper and staples and try to be creative and try to figure out a way that I could use these at-home equipments that kind of match something that's mainstream. So that inventor side of me had always been part of like my passion or my drive just to be like creative and be active. I've always been in sports, and I started, I was actually an art major, and what it led me to being a PE teacher is like just the influences I had from a lot of different people. So growing up, I was always in daycare because, like I said, my mom was a single mother, and I always loved working out in sports, and it kind of made me put those passions together, and it became a PE teacher. And again, in this certain situation, I felt like, okay, as a parent, I see my son struggling, and what can I do to help him become more active? Because again, we spend a majority of our time with lessons, but yet we're not moving as much as we did before. So it's just thinking about that as a parent, but then also thinking about my students, because that's my why, kind of helped me develop this, again, the P spot. And it was, I had different names, and the thing that stuck to me the most was the P spot, because I felt like, again, it's an opportunity for us to hang out, enjoy each other, but as well as be physically active while at home.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my drive, my why, and my story of why I became so creative, I guess you could say. And again, do-it-yourself PE activity has just been my thing right now.
Danny, that's awesome. And just to tell you right now, for people who are looking to get into the game, Danny's relatively new, guys. I would be following him on Twitter. He can share with you some tips and tricks on, you know, the good, bad, and the ugly in this process, as we were talking before we went live, because it's always funny hearing that part of the story. I'd like to shift now to Jim. Jim, kind of give us, you know, your story. Expand on a little bit more about your story, because I love your story. I had a chance to talk to you last week.
Oh, yes. And kind of like Danny, I actually, a long time ago, before I wanted to do phys ed, I actually wanted to be a lawyer. But I think I definitely made a good choice. No, so I'm kind of the same way, that I'm very passionate and like I really wanted to give back. I'm the SHAPE Physical Activity Council chair. If you don't know, that SHAPE is, their national chair is comprised of about 8 people. And we discuss things like physical activity, we discuss physical education, health, other things for SHAPE, and we come up with content, we support content like Health Moves Minds. And that's one that, like I said, I just wanted to do it. I had no idea where it would take me. And last September, when the chair spot opened up, I said, you know what? I wanted to try my hand at leading this because I love SHAPE and I love the vision. And like I said, it's all about giving back, because but I also want to give back in a certain way, that like a unique, like Danny was saying, like a unique perspective and something showcase that's something authentic to me. And because there was a lot of great content, but I wanted to make sure that it was heard, that I wanted to do that. So like with the SHAPE, one thing I want to highlight that we're doing is, if you've seen on Twitter, it's our wellness series, which I honestly just kind of started on a whim, because I went to Melanie Levenberg, who's on the Phys Ed Council, and I said, hey, you know, there were a lot of workout videos. And even though most of us are phys ed teachers like myself, we really wanted to set the narrative so that, like, at first it started for just adults and teachers. And these are things that are purposeful. So it is under the guise of physical activity, but a lot of these people, as you know, Melanie Levenberg, Pam Powers, they are also physical educated background. So that was the guise of the why, and the what was that we wanted to give videos, but in that there's also teaching, and they're fun. And as it's been growing, honestly, as of right now, I could say I'm booked into, we're looking for people. If anybody wanted to join today, I'd have to say the next Wednesday that's open is the first one in October. And just doing that for SHAPE, and it's just fun, because I mean, we get a lot of people. Sometimes we don't get a lot of people, but you know what? Everyone who comes, everyone loves it. It's always fun. I know a lot of people said on Twitter that they want to use it for their sub plans. And so that's one of the big things. That's what I really enjoyed. So I mean, as you can see, I'm wearing my SHAPE shirt, which I love. Like I said, I have a podcast, which I kind of just started almost as like a side project, just, you know, for fun, just to kind of talk to different people. I enjoy, for me, like I said, I have those other licenses, so I kind of like looking into and kind of talking about how those influence and kind of how help me as a teacher, and I like to share it with others, just because, like I said, I want to give back. And so that's part of my story. Yeah,
Jim, that's awesome. And yeah, we'll definitely, you know, if you want to type in your contact info, that'd be great. So if people wanted to maybe learn more about that council you're on at SHAPE America for physical activity, feel free to share your content.
If I may, we actually have, usually it's on Wednesdays, but we actually have a special guest tonight.
Yeah.
Jeffrey and Lauren. I'm going to type in the register. So basically it's free. You register and you come, it's the Zoom, and you come and you show up, and it's my personal Zoom, and it's fun. And I'll also show you, because like I'll show you, we actually have a library at this point. If I may just share one more thing, we have a library at this point of past ones and previous ones. I had to use a Wakelet and just kind of put them all together.
Yeah.
So feel free to look.
That's awesome. Thank you, buddy. All right, let's last but not least, again, for someone who's been doing this quite some time, you know, Drew, tell us briefly your story. You know, we know your why, but now kind of get us into, you know, the what and the how.
Well, let's see. I'll be going to my 10th year this year And kind of like I said, when I first started, social media wasn't really that popular. So there wasn't really many PE things that popped up. But after watching some things that was done, I just kind of got tired of the curriculum that I had. I kind of wanted to change it around a little bit. So I invented Project Phys Ed. So I created games, I put them up on there. Kind of known for the field days. I usually put themes attached to it. We use it in the gym throughout the year as well. I would go to MOSHAPE, share my knowledge of what I did for field day. It seemed like it got bigger every year. I wanted to help people with that because it seemed like people were kind of struggling maybe when it got time, or they just lost the thought of they needed to get it done. I see on social media all the time, people like, does anybody have any ideas of what to do? So I started just adding more things into it. And with this year, with COVID, I kind of took a little bit of a turn. We got sent home and I started making at-home PE. I made a lesson every day for 9 weeks for my students, and this took off like a rocket. I got pictures and videos from people all over the country playing these games just by me going into my garage and finding little things that people could use. You know, I think one of the biggest ones was Plinko. I had my daughter sit at the top of the steps. We took 2 sock balls, rolled them up, and rolled it down the steps, and they had a blast doing that. And pictures from other teachers around. It was amazing, just the response I got. So, you know, that's basically what I was saying earlier. I've seen people do this when I first started out. There's probably people who just started out as well, and I can give back to them. So teachers helping teachers.
Well, thank you, Drew. Now we'll finish with our last question and let Anna address it.
Thank you, Guy. So I just would like to ask all 3 of you, and thank you again for being on today. I know that we all really appreciate it. But I'm going to start in the middle here of all of you because we've gone kind of forwards and backwards. And so I am going to start with, I believe I'm starting with Jim.
Yep.
And so Jim, I just wanted to ask, you know, as you've moved through this process and definitely grown through this, would you care to share the impact that it has had on the HPE community and on yourself?
I would just honestly say that so for the videos, I was honestly surprised that they're free and people are like-minded people that are just enjoy doing this. So I've reached out to friends, I've reached out to people, you know, on Twitter and like Victor Spadar, and they just love doing this. And it's just awesome to, like for today, like just to be with like-minded individuals, just being able, having a chance and being in a world that we could actually do that, because that may not be possible, may have been possible, but one silver lining. But I would think the impact that I think, and it was kind of funny because last week I had to change the time with Victor to 8:30. And one of the people said, you know, not many people might come today because they expect it to be at 8 o'clock. So the fact that someone said they expect it to be at 8 o'clock, it was like people are noticing, and people are, believe it or not, they may not be, they are noticing, they are starting to take a look. And so that felt good because it always feels good when you know that sometimes you do it and you're not really quite sure. Even if you look at the analytics, even on Twitter, because it says so many people looked at it. But it just feels, and it's just good to know that, you know, people like, and I'm going to show it, Drew and Danny could, but it's, when you look at that, and their content's great. When you look at it, when you see people and they're responding to it, it just feels really great. Just like with the podcast and the round table that we have coming up, we've got 330 plus people signed up. I got teachers from other countries are interested in it too. We might hit 400, but just doing things like that. And I mean, it's it's maybe the content I'm doing is mostly for the teachers, but also like this roundtable next week, we have a panel. We're also inviting it to just non-phys ed teachers. So because even there we figure that, but even if you're not, a lot of these teachers are on reentry council, so you know they should be informed too, and it's a way for advocacy. And just to see, you know, the numbers don't lie in the sense that they help. It's good to see that, you know, people are interested and people that want to do it. And that just feels good to know that that I'm giving back and making a difference for teachers, and hopefully that will trickle down to their students.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think you said some magic words there to Guy's ears of data analytics. He loves the data, and our profession loves data. And that's what has driven us to do what we are doing right now and to just hone in on that. So thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm going to go next to Drew. Would you share a little bit about, as you've moved through this process and grown through this, how it has and what impact it's made on the HB community and yourself?
Well, I mean, if I create a lesson and I put it up on social media, the biggest thing to me is when I watch people reenact the same thing and
Yeah.
they say, you know, we got, I mean, that is a remarkable feeling. A quick example, we did Home Alone stations around the holidays. And these people, they loved these stations that I created. We had over 3,000 views on this video. And I had probably over 50 people redo the stations and said their students loved it. You know, anytime I drop the green screen down or hit record, it's for the students. And I love doing anything I can to make them laugh. I do the weather reports because, you know, students always ask, what's the weather going to be like today before field day? Or, you know, it's just a simple question. And I always want to keep them up to date. And teachers were seeing this and they were laughing, and you could tell the views were going up. It just lets me know that I'm doing my job and I'm having fun doing it as well.
Yeah.
Helping other teachers, like I said, and you know, they can reenact it, and that's my job. I'm helping them get through the process, just like I was in the beginning.
Yeah, and you know, it's so, we talked about this last week about being duplicatable, and it's so important. So you've seen that what you know, shared on social media and had so many people duplicate and show what you did, like that's a very gratifying process, but it's also, it's fun, and it's also, you know, that you're providing values, but so that's awesome. And I know that when we're having fun as educators, our kids are more than likely having is just as much fun,
Right.
more. So there's that connection piece there. So thank you so much for sharing. Danny, I'm going to end with you here. So what about yourself? How has, as you've moved through this process and grown through it, how has it made an impact in the HP community and onto yourself?
I got to share very similar to Drew, like just, you know, putting out these videos. And again, I don't know if I get 1 view, 1,000 views, it doesn't really matter to me. It's more about like who it's reaching, whether it be my students, whether it be other teachers. I've had different countries actually hit me up and say, hey, do you mind playing this game? So this game gets some activities, you know, if you want to look at that, it's called Powball, and that's from Europe, you know? So it's just like giving different types of opportunities to different people, different countries, showing face to that. So it's like, again, not just a state level, not just a national level, but we're changing the world. Everything that we're doing has had an impact on the world. And if we could continue supporting each other, and again, teachers helping teachers and creating these are like you were saying, Guy, like finding the needs and then helping to, like, in a sense, change them, right? So like my biggest projects right now that I will actually be posting today is another video about distance learning and a different type of activity you could do with distance learning. So again, using like less equipment, like 6 feet apart, like those are the big needs that need to be addressed right now. So it's just creating the content that's really going to be relative and helping our teachers out there, whether they're in the classroom, whether they're outside, whether they are in a gym or not. So it's just kind of that situation where we get to support all of our teachers and everyone out there, regardless of whatever situation we're in. Again, if we're indoors, outdoors, or if, you know, we're in a classroom, we can work it out together by just supporting each other. And again, if I could just inspire one person, then that means the world to me. You know, Drew said it best. Like when people are replicating your activities or even shouting you out saying, hey, thank you to the PE spot for this video that our kids love. And just, again, getting those pictures, it's very gratifying because it keeps the passion, it keeps it ignited and lighted for you to just continue improving your craft and getting better at it. So that's why I feel like, you know, creating the PE spot has just been just a blessing and just an amazing feeling, just being able to reach so many people out there. Again, not just at the state level, not the national level, but again, across the world. So.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, guys, it's pretty phenomenal. So I want to be respectful of people's times. We're probably going to have about a 10-minute Q&A. What I would like you to do, guys, this is really important to us. If you could just type into the chat your key takeaways or takeaway, just one. We've shared a lot of information. Drew, Danny, and Jim have shared a lot. I've shared a few things, but we'd really like to know what you're taking away from today, and maybe for the first time, if there's something you really learned and you want to tell the world, you don't have to put any of our names in it. Just type it on Twitter and just use the hashtag Zagging101. If there's something that has really moved you today, something that's going to be, you know, impactful, let your colleagues, let your friends know about it, because this is why we're doing this. I mean, this is all word of mouth, basically, through social media content. And so with that, I just want to say thanks. This is going to be the recorded portion. We're going to come to an end. Then we're going to open it up to a live Q&A. Just want to let you guys know, next week, there will be no Zagging 101. We're taking a break so we can get ready for the fall series, but we will be coming live at you at a new time when school starts. That's going to be the start of the school that I'm in, that Lauren's at. We'll be going live at 4:30 p.m. Central Time. We'll let you guys know what that topic will be. And if you guys need to get a hold of us on Twitter, you guys see our information there. And with that, let me stop the recording. If I can find the button.